don't think education as it is will ever catch up with what's happening. AI is doing like Ferdy child. I can bet you in 5 years' time, something would, come and flood it. How do you sit down to revamp the curriculum to catch up? The conclusion is that you can't. The only thing you can do is that you have a basic curriculum, but you teach people to think. That's why you find that people that did engineering-based subjects tend to be people that are better thinkers. Not because they're more intelligent, it's just that the virtue of the course you did allowed you to try to see patterns than something that is just, this is it can only come out like this. Nigeria is a giant and it's a big market. See what has happened in the creative space. The creative space has opened up. Look at, Emanuela, Macaroni, Daddy Shaggy. It has taken them all over the world. As industries open up, prosperity happens to people alongside.
Hi guys, welcome to another edition of our podcast. Let me tell you about my friend who is joining us today. Her name is Titi Adewusi. She's the founder of Niger Kids. Something very interesting. Titi worked with one of the big fours in Nigeria, as we say, it's the consulting company. She would eventually leave to start Niger Kids. As an entrepreneur, she faced hard times, and during COVID, she found her biggest break into making her product mainstream. Today, she's pushing STEM education through her platform, not just in Nigeria, across Africa through partnerships. And we're going to sit with her and learn about her wounds and her wisdom, her learning and her mistakes, everything in between. It's going to be a great ride, so stick around and let's do this together. Hi Titi, glad to have you here.
Thank you, I'm happy to be here.
So there are many reasons why I really wanted us to talk about your work. And I think I came to your house maybe almost 12 years ago. 10, 12 years ago, Sulere, and I remember coming for a meeting that your husband hosted and you entertained us, but also seeing from spirituality to entrepreneurship, from career to even now building one of Africa's forward-thinking startup that is redefining education through innovative play and fun, and also pushing STEM for the past 5 years and trying to drive that education. I think you're a valid and legit voice that we need to hear from. But I really wanted to begin this by asking the question as you're jumping. How did you worked for one of the top four, and everyone knows that you have a certain level of career stability when you are in that sort of environment. But at what point did you think it was time to switch into, of all spaces, edtech? Right? How did you recognize that moment, and was it easy for you?
A very interesting question. So I like to think I was one of those career people, just go do the work, make the money and get to the top of the game. And of course, you're moving on in your careers. I never thought of business. I never thought of being an entrepreneur. And I also look at, if you don't have entrepreneurs around you, you tend to just follow the norm, which is your parents had a career. That's what you do. They grew to the top of their career. So I think that was what I had in mind. But as we got closer to, being a partner in this company, is this what I want to do? I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And so what happened is I made a decision to, leave, but I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to jump into. So I now started going out to listen. And that's why things like this podcast would help. Mm-hmm. So I knew, okay, let me go, and listen to entrepreneurs. Interestingly, my church at that point was actually doing a business series. So every Wednesday, I went and listened. And I listened to the likes of, Cosmos Maduka. They brought the MD of Slot. They were able to bring Brian Tracy. As I listened to them, little light bulbs moment were coming up, but I still didn't have an idea. So I just said, okay, one day I'll take this jump. Again, safety net. I was very logical. I said, okay, my kids are at this age. If I want to take a jump, this is the best time. You're not paying big school fees yet. So it's not that I just went and just jumped without watching. I said, okay, Mr. Adewusi will be paying all the bills. You can take it. It's like taking a year off work, So I made that decision and said I was going to do it. But I didn't know what I was going to do. And then interestingly, an ex-colleague told me that he was starting he had started a fast food business. I should just come and, join him. I was like, fast food business, cooking was not even my idea. But it opened the soft landing to jump from, the big four to, business. And I just jokingly said, will you match my salary? I was earning 7 figures, thinking he would say no, maybe that we used to chase me. I said, he will match my salary. I said, okay. It was an easier decision. So he matched my salary, and I went and started with this entrepreneur. And then I really saw the disparity between, entrepreneurship and being in a big corporate. I was like, man, it's like that other one was a bubble. This one is like real life, grassroots. All the theories I had there, they were not working. I had to relearn and unlearn. But it was interesting that I was now there. I thought I was going to end up being there for a year while I discovered what I was passionate about, the things that would, make me chase business. And so before I knew it, 1 year turned to over 5.
Wow.
And that's really what it is. If you go and you have nowhere to go, you will just end up floating. So before I knew it was 5 years, I had to wake up one day. So what am I interested in? And I'll say again, go and revisit all these podcasts and go listen to all these people series. And I realized that I was passionate about learning. I was passionate about education, but I knew I didn't want to run a school. So I canceled that. It's not school. I now realized I was passionate about learning that was fun, was hands-on, really experiential. And that's really when I now started doing things for Sunday school. So you see, a lot of things are like threads. Then they all come together. And then, of course, my children were at the age where they were learning. You're not looking for things to make their learning exciting. I would scout for worksheets. I would scout for games. I found this puzzle maker that you just tell you what kind of puzzle you want. You put in the things that you want to learn, and then you create the puzzle, and I'll give it to my children. So it was that kind of always looking for how to make their learning exciting. And then I learned my son didn't want to learn. My first son was serious, efficacious. My second son was not even interested. And so that's when I announced he was interested in the iPad. Even before he could read, he could navigate. If you give him your phone and your something was your card was to your phone, you most likely pay for a game online. But he couldn't read. There was just something instinct. But we are parents, African parents now. Go and read book. Go and read book. This thing's taking you away, because that's the mindset our own parents. But football is like the devil taking you away from your real work. And then someone said, "What if you help him learn the way he learned?" And that was the light bulb moment. How do I take the games, the things that he's interested in, and just fuse it together, and create something that he wants? And that's really how Nigerian Kids came about. So it was all my threads. And by then I'd been a Sunday school teacher for like a decade in my church. I'd already been doing that for my older son in terms of creating content for him. So it was like all the skills coming together. Coming from the Big Four, I'd learned how to also do trainings for, corporate organizations. We had learned how to develop curriculum, So all those threads came together, and then I'd done grassroots entrepreneurship, learning about business. Because if I jump from the Big Four is you just say your name and the doors just open,
Yes.
right? When you go to grassroots, you say your name. Who are you? I was like, I don't know. You have a lot more marketing to do. You have to think about strategies for marketing. So it's completely different, So I was really appreciative of that jump, that 5 years that I felt was like I was just floating away. But it was really where I learned entrepreneurship. We had worked to grow that business, from one outlet. By the time I was leaving, it was 13 outlets. We had seen the various challenges. We had worked with government. Before then, I'd not had any dealings with government. I mean, I worked with the Big Four. We do everything ethical. We don't give, they now come to this, whatever. It's time to pay salaries. Then the government official come and lock up your outlet. Everything, you start understanding the patterns and the season. This is school fees time. Okay. They will come. They say, madam, we're coming. Bring out your radio license, TV license. I say, but I don't have radio. I don't have TV. Madam, these are local government fees. I never dealt with any of those things in the Big Four. You now realize, please bring out all your building permit. I don't understand all those things.
But I remember you had mentioned that you did work with your sisters. I wanted you to speak to that because, again, having a support system where your sisters were there to even support you, and your husband was able to give the support to say we can explore. I'm sure that may have helped. In a sense,
it more than helped. I really wonder how solo entrepreneurs do it. It's hard, We can never. As I work with two of my sisters, we can't all be discouraged at the same time. That's the thing about having a co-founder. If I come out today after meeting a client and I'm like, I want to give up, like, no, you know what? We'll just start again. They will just pump you up. But if it's only you, just carry your car. I'm like, oh boy, maybe I should go back into paid employment. It's easier to be like, When some people are talking about money, say, this money, I won't even wake up out of my bed for this amount. So, but when you have that support system of people that, help refresh you, help support you, help show that you're not alone. It's different. You also have the support system of, you're not paying bills at home. I remember our office, it's my husband that provided the building. So for the first 2 years, we didn't pay rent, that kind of thing. So some of those support, I remember a lot of people, the first thing we needed to develop, my friend offered his developer for free. So yes, it was like, Titi, oh, don't worry, I would, she would just come, I would give it to her for 1 month, tell her what you want to do. So I had a developer, because our office was like a little matchbox, 2 of us with 2 tables. So the developer will come and sit in one small place. So, that's support at the beginning. So we didn't have to worry about rent. First of all, we're not paying ourselves. We only had money to pay the next first person. So that's support. And so many people did those kind of support.
Yeah.
I have people that they're working in top PR firms, but they'll help me do my own girl as their PP. So it means that I learned how to just manage and juggle and navigate. You get big value, but you're paying small money for it.
You have to leverage a lot of relationships.
You have to leverage relationship, leverage support. Someone will come. I remember my first TV thing. Someone said, don't worry, Titi, I will help you talk to this, my friend. He will put you on channels. People say, Titi, I saw you on channels. How did I say, it was just someone that spoke to another person and said, you know what, help give this my person.
But let's dive back to the question I was going to ask. So, making that transition from the big four and the corporate Lagos where your salaries are sure and you're not having to look for clients. The clients will come and you're not dealing with all the many regulatory issues, the local government and everything. And you move over to a startup. Now we're seeing the high rate of failure. On record, about 75% of startups will no longer exist 5 years after they started. So, investors are also questioning the metrics. But just even speaking to 5 years and what are the challenges as an entrepreneur you have had to live through. Perhaps there are people who are also in the season where you were in 2019 and just disillusioned. They launched into the startup. They loved being a CEO. They wanted to be their own boss. They like the title founder. It gets a good ring when you go out. You understand? Until it's time to the grind, I realized that, okay, what is the title when you can't pay the bills? But really, interestingly, I wanted you to speak to your own experience on some of the challenges that somehow founders may not easily see that could affect fundamentally their success.
So I think if I was to redo life again as a founder, the first thing is I'll go to founder school, right? I'd already done, I think, almost 2 years before I then joined Founders Institute. If I look back, I was like, I should have done Founders Institute first. Because they make you look at all the legs of your business, which most of the time when you run off, you're only looking at one leg. Usually you're looking at how to build the product. But they will talk to you about the finance. They will talk to you about people. They will talk to you about marketing, business development. And no matter how good your business is, that selling is really the key. You find out founders are good sellers tend to survive longer because no matter what it is, if people don't know about it, they're not going to buy it. So people that are very good sellers, you find out even if the product is trash, they're making money. You can go to a restaurant that the food no sweet, but it's the talk of town because the person has known how to sell that business. So those are some of the things that founders need to know. So usually you don't know how to sell. Most people are not sellers, but you need to do that. And I realized that when I started that you need to have someone that does operations and someone that is dedicated to the selling, right? So there's someone that's doing the operation.
If you're not the person on your team, you have to get
someone immediately. So luckily, because we are 3 co-founders, when I learned that, we just immediately shared. So I said, you do the operations, you are taking care of the technology, I'm out there doing the selling. And that's what. So you find that selling is like going to fishing. The more you cast your net, the probability of bringing one or two fish back comes. Yes. If you don't go, you don't get. So that's why people don't realize after you build a product, no matter how good it is, you have to come and tell me about it. You have to come and tell the other person about it. They have to use it.
Okay, this interesting thing about the fact that most founders don't have the full picture. I remember someone telling me that many people could easily get blindsided. You're great at marketing, but you don't have a great product. I have a great product I can't sell. I can sell, but I don't understand process. I understand process, I don't have great operations. I don't have great operations, but I have access to capital. But on the side of the metrics of the African market, easily founders will tell you we have 250 million people in Nigeria, and then maybe we'll say 1.3 billion in Africa. But again, they put these numbers on the deck. They put it into the spreadsheet. It's showing that this is actually what I'm intent to make. In the first year, we'll get 100K downloads. By the first 5 years, we've crossed our first 2 million, right? Then they're itching to a unicorn. You put a price point, maybe 5,000 monthly, 10,000 monthly, 15,000 monthly. And sooner than later, everybody realizes that, oh, this is not Hollywood. This is not actually California. It's not Silicon Valley. And then you now start talking about the buying power. But how is it possible that 250 million people that cannot actually give you even 1% monthly subscriber on an average startup product, apart from fintechs, but just many other products, even edtech too. So what was the gap? What is missing? Why are we potential in number but weak in the buying?
Yeah, and it's because we don't really say the figures as they are. In the end of that 200 million, maybe only 100 million can really afford more than food. Nigerians spend 65% of their income on food. So that's why you see that once it's food, look at, if you take out telecoms, if you take out oil and gas, where is the people that are growing and expanding? It's people that are selling food. Most of us are spending our money on food. After food comes, transportation. After transportation comes housing. So anything that is not around these three.
So you're fighting for 10% of someone's
They're
income?
fighting, yes, for 10% of income. And I've not added school fees if they have children. I've not added healthcare. So you see that there's really very little. So the advantage with the fintech is that whatever you do, you still need to make payments. So they're there. Whatever you do, you must make a call. You must send SMS. So those people already are part of our daily lives. But every other thing can only be transportation. And then feeding. So most people, after they spend that, there's nothing else to spend. So you want them to be, I've not finished feeding. You want me to come and watch Netflix? Pay 2,000 naira for less. It starts becoming, so our real buying power is really small for any other thing.
So I think about 5% of Nigerians and above 500K. So
if you do 5%, are you trying to say that's 10?
No, I'm not even sure I have the stats right.
Because 5%, 10% is 25 million. So 10%. No, in the end, the figure I heard is that we only have about 4 million people that end up of 500,000 naira every month.
So we're all selling to 4 million.
So that is we are not selling to more than 5 million people, and these 5 million people are located in certain states.
Actually,
that's why they say when
Lagos,
you grow in Lagos, you do.
Yes.
So that's what it is. So if it's not food, if it's not transportation, if it's not telecoms that they use every day, and a money transfer because I have to there's very little.
I also want to see how we can crack into that. So there's something we call the big black hole in the Nigerian startup space. The big black hole is what the banks call the unpack. Try as you might, they are just not on the radar. These people just make money, spend the money under the table. They're not really, it doesn't pass through the formal system. And it's still the big black hole when you talk about subscription even a big company like Netflix was worried that they couldn't crack into 1% or 2% of the market almost 4 or 5 years into the market, right? And they even created a price point that was like, is it 2K, 5 or 2K per subscription? And they were not seeing traction. So that big black hole, it's something that I think in Kenya, they broke with M-Pesa.
Yes.
Kenya was able to sort of like M-Pesa cracked it. Now, I would give it to Money Point. Maybe, I think to my mind, I think a few brands have sort of done the work of being able to be on every street, right? But is there a marketing challenge, or is there a way that founders, or even businesses, would think about how they sell their value that does not just limit it to the 4 million people that already buy, but we are now trying to reach the 246 million people.
No, just let's put it at 70, because there's some people in the farm and all these things are saying they never buy. But I think what it is like, it's like in M-Pesa. You have to go to those people's level and really understand how you can crack it. I have a shop, 5K passes through me. I can't go and put it in the bank because the next day I'm going to need the 5K. But what happens with a thing like M-Pesa is that you can put the money, when I want to transact with you, I just send the money to you. they're not going to be collecting all my money from the bank. They don't really need me to come up with too many documentations to do it. I mean, I've done things for children with bank promoting financial literacy, and one of the gifts they were meant to do was money, and the money was going to be paid into an account. More often than not, over 50% of them never redeem the money. Why? They don't have birth certificates. Yes. And birth certificate is a requirement to open a children's account. I didn't know that. You know, I now found out a lot of people, they go give birth in the hospital, take their children home, because the birth certificate means you have to go to the local government to register the birth. Most people don't do that. So they don't have birth certificate. So you see, but if you do something like M-Pesa, you don't need that, because you already have a phone, the money just flows. It's the same thing with Netflix. When I'm walking on my street, all the young abokis on my street, they are all watching movies. So that means that there's that potential. I'm surprised. They're all, their phones are out there. They're all watching. And you know, with MTN, there has some free YouTube. So they're all on YouTube. I can hear Hausa programs. I can hear Igbo programs. I can hear Efik programs. They're all there. So it means that as a founder, the real skill is these people that are in the black hole. But the challenge, you know, how to get them out. It requires, honestly, the grind, which most of the time you don't have the money, you don't have the patient capital. So everywhere where they've done grind, there's been patient capital. Money Point had patient capital. OPay had patient capital.
There was a lot of education too.
You know, it's because you need patient capital for education to go and educate the people how to use it. I was giving the example of Facebook. Before Facebook ad became a big thing that it is in Nigeria, there was patient capital taken to trainings. Facebook invested money in a lot of people training businesses in the areas on how to set up Facebook accounts for business, how to set up ads. You know, it was for free. It was only after that they announced anything. So there's that patient capital that allows you to educate, create awareness, you know, prepare the unbanked or the black hole people to do that. It's the same thing with car taxis and Ubers. Did you know Uber was going to do like this? A lot of people wanted to take taxi, but you couldn't because of so many things. You didn't know the price ahead. You go and be negotiating Papa only taxi and how much it will be. You would first all do the negotiation. But this one, I see the money ahead of time. If I want to afford it, if I don't afford it, I won't enter. And then me and my friend can do it. So we already have this idea because that's the same way you do with a bus. You know, bus from Suleri to Obalinde is already 200. So you can plan. So those are the things that help. You need to break it down to people's, where they are and where you need to unlock the value for them. So it's the same thing. It's the same as education, right? And one of the things that, when the likes Mandela, people wanted to become tech, they could not go to university again, right? Most of the developers in my office did not learn it in school. They learned it in YouTube. After they did YouTube, they went to go and learn it in one mass program where that they told me that there are thousands of them on the learning the something. So you have to
enough screen time.
Do you understand? You have to just be sharp to learn it, and then you go back to the YouTube, you go and learn, and then by the time someone gives you that first opportunity, you make a number of mistakes, and then that's how it is. So you need to be able to uncrack. A lot of people are learning things away from school. So it's how do you make it more at scale, make it easier, accessible.
I love that you mentioned education because that's where I'm coming to now. Having explored a little bit about entrepreneurship and you've spoken so extensively, and I'm hoping this will be of value to a lot of the startups because, again, not enough wisdom. It's out there, just even knowing that everybody starts by believing their own hype, thinking I can cash a spreadsheet, right?
I have the best idea.
They have the best idea.
It's going to work.
And sometimes they say, do you have a competitor? Well, not quite like that, not in the exact way I've innovated. But again, just education as it is. Are we doing well in Nigeria? I mean, even looking at globally across the global south and even the rest of the world, with respect to what we currently have curriculum, I know that some schools are updating curriculum like almost every year. And I know that in Nigeria here, it takes 5 years to really do a curriculum review. I don't know if that has changed, but in just being an ecosystem player, working with schools to get them to adopt new learning tools. I remember reading a book by the 8 Multiple Intelligences, where they spoke about more than one way in which a child can learn. So there's arithmetic. Then you now have the literal intelligence, people who understand writing, reading, and poetry. Arithmetic are great with numbers, but you also have intrapersonal. So these are intuitive people who sit down and then they think things through and they know the answer. But you also have interpersonal. They want to do group study. They want to ask questions. You have kinesthetics. These are people who learn through movement. So you have to demonstrate for them to keep it in their head. You also have spatial intelligence. People that just enter into a space and they connect. They just explore with space. And I think there's musical. And one lady spoke to us about trying to get her son to learn her phone number. So under emergency, they will call. He just couldn't pick the numbers. She sang it to him in a song, 080, 080, and then he picked it. So by the third repeat, he knew the number. So in a sense, she could struggle flogging him Olodo, cram this thing. And then she unlocked it when she could put it in the sound. It's so funny how that element of music can make somebody even pick it better. But back to the fact that play and innovative learning, like what you're doing with Niger kids, is still something the rest of the world is thinking about learning. How has that experience been? Are we catching on just well?
So things, I don't think education as it is will ever catch up with what's happening. I mean, look, one moment we had no AI. 2 years later, it's like life without AI. So how do you sit down to revamp the curriculum to catch up? The conclusion is that you can't. The only thing you can do is that you have a basic curriculum, but you teach people to think. So everything you're doing is teaching them to think, so that when the situation arises, they will think. You teach them to think, and you teach them to use tools. That's really what the curriculum should be around. So there's the basic, maths and English, but every other thing should be about how to think. Because AI is doing like a favorite child. I can bet you in 5 years' time, something would, come and flog it. And it'll keep happening like that. So it means that the education would, if it's very rigid, will never catch up. So it needs to have a general framework, but it's really promoting thinking, using things to think, to solve problems. And that's why people promote STEM education. That's why you find that people that did engineering-based subjects tend to be people that are better thinkers. It's not because they're more intelligent. It's just that the virtue of the course you did allowed you to try to see patterns than something that is just, this is it. It can only come out like this. So most times, people that did engineering type courses and people that do law, they do very well in aptitude tests. We have a report out there that shows the people that do well in aptitude tests. Yes, because it's just that thing of thinking. So even if you didn't know, you start to see the pattern. You can make some deductions and 70-80% will be right. So we need how to teach children to think. So you need to let them know how to use technology, because technology allows you to know how to think. Because by the time I show you how to give a child and show him how to, create a blog, the next one you come out, you'll be amazed what he's done. If I show him how to do some animation and just say, this is how to do it, and listen, he can do marvelous things, and no matter their income level. So we take some of these things to public schools and we just do one small thing. The things they create, our mind is blown. People are like, are you sure these people are from public school? They ask, have they done this? I said, no. It's that thing of thinking. So the more you do things that allow people to think, when you do STEM, those STEM curricula, when you do science is another thing that allows you to think.
Yes.
You put this thing, and like, why is it? Okay, let me put it. Like when we were young and we were in those science classes, the teacher said you should put only small. But there's something in you like, let me just put two. Let me put 2 more drops. And then the next you say, okay, they didn't turn out at this. Why is your own color? Okay, the person's color is different. It's that thing of thinking, why did you do like this? Why did So that thing of thinking, if we can do that in the curriculum using STEM education, teach them to use technology. My son wanted to be a blogger and a YouTuber because he's seeing people doing it. He sat down one day, Mommy, I didn't have your time. The next day he sat down, went to watch things, then he'll come in front of him, then he now started doing, the next day, let's set up YouTube channel. They're just thinking of how to think. And that's really what we need to do with our curriculum. We need to create thinkers. We need to promote things like design things. So whatever you do in the curriculum, ensure that there are some 3 basic things promoting design thinking. Because design thinking means that you create for people's problems, not just you come and create. Allows you to think from it. Design thinking is customer focused. Teach them design, teach them STEM education, how things are interdisciplinary, how to think, how to solve problems. That's really all we need. So the curriculum can still continue to have certain things, but there has to be thinking elements, and then there needs to be financial literacy. because that's the coming back to entrepreneurs. So you come out without that financial literacy. You think that you just come, just blow. But by the time you're doing financial literacy, it starts teaching you about investment, budgeting, opportunity cost. It starts teaching, so you become a better business person. You also begin to see opportunities. I went one day and spoke to some senior secondary school in a public school, and I told them, "What do you need to start a business?" Everybody said money. I said no. I said, what do you need to start a business? They all thought. I said, all you need is to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So I gave them an example. I said, you live in a Jack-on-Day building and there are plenty of people in that your building. But there are 7 old women that live there and they live on the top floor. And you go to meet them and say, Mama, I can help you go to the market. Give me your budget, but you pay me 2,000 naira. And do for just 7. I said, did you need money? No. Or you say, you know how to plait hair. And then there are people, you see this woman that she can't take her daughter's hair is untied. You say, Mama, I can help you plait your daughter's hair for 1,000 naira. What happens? You've started a business. I told them, you're very good in maths. All your people in your class are not good in maths. I said, okay, you come to my house, I teach you people for maths for 1 hour, you will pay me 500 naira. So that mindset allows people to find problems to solve.
Okay, this is interesting. I mean, just even seeing the importance in having a product that you deeply understand the nature of the market and what you're building. Now, there is also an African market. Right, so there's Nigeria, there's Africa. I know Nigeria Kids have done a bit of work across Africa, but in that journey of exporting STEM education and taking innovative learning tools across Africa, what would be your experience in the African market at large?
Again, let me say 2 things. I like the idea of this podcast because some of the things I learned it from listening to someone. That's just the thing. So I once listened to Cosmos Maduka and he talked about taking his car business outside to Nigeria. He talked about how he went to Ghana and he said he drove from the airport, he didn't even see Benz. He didn't see all these luxury cars that in Nigeria he would have seen. So I don't know, is this the place I'm coming to bring my business to? So it made me realize that Nigeria is a giant and it's a big market in all the way.
And somewhat ahead.
And it's somewhat ahead. So he was the first person that gave me that understanding. The next person was, I went and met with the MD of one of the first major fintechs. And I told him, I'm thinking of Africa. He started laughing. He said, Titi, just conquer Nigeria. He said, all the things that do in other African, it's like a drop. In one city in Nigeria, they'll just clear all the things that are making those African countries that they're in. And he reemphasized the fact that Nigeria is a giant. So we are inside, we are just complaining. No. But when you go to other African countries, you find that Nigeria is a giant. You're not saying it's a giant for just making noise population. No, it's a giant in every sense of the word. In the things that we are doing, in our entrepreneurs, in our education, even the education that we put, in our way of thinking, in our confidence, in our how they hustle, it's a giant. And the 2 of them told me, these are experienced people that their businesses were big. So even when I went to Africa, it helped temper some of those my expectations. The other things, another person I listened to say that if you want to go to business in other Africa, just look for people that are already doing it and see how to partner.
Yes.
So that's why I find that when people do expansions, they usually go into look into the market, see another person that is doing it, either acquire them or partner with them. And that's really how we've grown, and done things outside Africa. So when I said going and attending things outside Africa, EdTech Connect, and I said, oh boy, this is my country, they're ahead. It's a wholesome boat. You know how we just live, and that's how we are in a lot of things, even in education. When I told them that during COVID, people continue online. They said, no, the 6 months of COVID, the schools were completely closed. I said, well, they said they were completely closed, no education. I said, none. I said, no, some schools were doing, Nigeria was even still doing radio for the population. They did nothing for 6 months.
Wow.
When I talk about devices, they're like, well, So I realized, oh my goodness, we are ahead. So even taking STEM education, I was taking a playbook of what had worked in Nigeria, look for partners that are like me, small partners that have started, and say, come, this is what I want. Can we do this together? And that's really how they were. And they were amazed at some of the things they are saying. Things that I'm taking for granted here in Nigeria. It was eye-opening to them. And that's how we went. We did it in Ghana, we did it in Sierra Leone, we did it in Gambia. Just this same thing. taking the playbook of what you've done here in Nigeria as well. Look for partners that are doing something there and say, you know what, I have this, then I can help you. I have the playbook. I most likely have the first 2 people that would help you, because Nigeria, again, is very Pan-African. So I had my people here that are saying, Titi, if you're doing anything in any of the other countries that we are currently there, we'll support you. And that's really how expansion happened. How did the Big 4 come to Nigeria? That's what happened. They had organizations that were expanding to Africa. And at the time they looked in, they found out that they had 2-3 organizations that were already in Africa. And that was what made them bring their companies to Africa. So in the same way, that's what we're also doing. Nigeria is ahead. Nigeria is a leader to Africa. That's the honest truth. Okay. And everywhere you go, you find out that we are already ahead doing those things. I mean, please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they are not doing something.
You actually have a very interesting perspective on it.
Go look for people that are doing similar things. See how you can partner.
It's even giving me clues, because I personally too have looked across Africa. In a way, most of the markets in East and West Africa outside Nigeria are not that large. There is also the language barrier. If you're going to the Francophone area of the market, you have to pass the barrier of language. If you're having to deal with, in East Africa, there's also almost a cultural disconnect with the way we approach some things. They're a little more temperate.
Everybody else is more temperate apart from Nigerians.
They always feel like if I have a friend from Gambia, I was like, all the lecturers that are moving, even the best students in their schools are all Nigeria. The guy was like, I find you guys very threatening. You guys are so competitive. You guys always want to come first. So they celebrate this resilience. But in looking at the job pattern in Nigeria, in Africa today, it's not just hitting Nigeria, it's hitting across Africa. Most talented people, there is a moving of great talents. The tech have suffered massively from loss of our great talents. And people find that when Nigerians get something right, they get it right. But, the American dream have continued to inspire dreamers everywhere in the world, and it's time to come. I think that there's something about African dream that most people don't know. But I wanted to speak to the fact that you've been here. You have every reason, you have every qualification, profile and everything to be in the UK and the US. Living a soft life, right? And just getting a decent job, driving through. Nobody's going to take your light anytime soon. I'm sure you're not going to be in some impossible traffic. But you've stuck it out. You stayed back. You're building from here. Is there something that is sustaining that fire in your soul?
So 2 things. I think one is the fact that, again, having come from corporate, right? You dealt with businesses and you saw businesses grow in this difficult environment. You saw someone that, her business was small and now it's a multi-millionaire business. So you saw that businesses can grow in this trying environment. And so it gives you a different perspective on life. You know people that are prospering. They might not be the noisemakers on social media. So you see that it's possible. And then you also compare the quality of life of the average successful, I'm not saying super successful, the average successful Nigerian, and you realize that they are comfortable and they are first-class citizens. When you go anywhere else, it's not. And maybe because before I entered entrepreneurship, I had the opportunities of going to all these places. Yeah. So it set my expectations that this is not necessarily better life. That's just the truth, When I travel, I'm like, God, nobody dropped me in front of the place. I have to walk out, or I have to jump bus. Or I'm not jump bus in ages. It's different for me because I was already a comfortable Nigerian. That's just the difference. So
you can't even have a maid or a nanny.
Yes, when I travel and I stay with my sister, the plate I wash in that 2 weeks, in the whole year in Nigeria, I've not washed it. I'm not joking. Because in my house, I have someone that's washing my plate for me. When I want to come down, I have to come and put my gate. I have to, those things that I don't know. So even if you don't have gate man, one boy down the street is willing to help madam put the gate, so it's that you've lived a particular set of life, If you are comfortable, you have, yes, there's power issues, but you have backup generator, you now have solar, you have driver, so you've seen what a comfortable life in Nigeria was or currently is. And you see, it's okay. You can travel, so when you go to the other side, you're like, when you really look at it, you cannot see the disparity enough to make you live.
So I want you to speak about unlocking Africa's potential now. We've spoken about the black hole in Nigeria startup space, where numbers don't just translate to revenue, right? And so in Africa now, we see what refineries, Dangote has a refinery. It's changing the game somewhat. We're talking about EV cars. We're talking about how Africans today can truly, come into a level of prosperity and a certain level of civilization if entrepreneurs could think a little more bigger than just what they are.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I remember back end, we had a conversation where you were quite making a point that if 4, 5, 6 solid entrepreneurs can take one aspect of our economy, whether somebody's taking transport, someone is taking, another person is taking maybe health, we could go far. But I really think that's not something I want to lose out. I want us to really bring it back in the way that can we truly unlock the potential and prosperity in Africa where we can see a truly prosperous and flourishing and thriving country?
I really think we can. And maybe, those of us being older saw what Nigeria was with a little prosperity when we were growing up. When we were growing up, Nigeria was not a poor country. When I was in primary and secondary school, only Olodos went to school abroad. It means you could not scale the Nigerian university. Then your parents will just sneak you off to Birmingham University. So when they say someone is in Birmingham, we in our mind, the base is Olodo. I'm sorry, that's what it was, because the Nigerian education system was hard, was rigorous. I listened to a guy that is based in America now, and he has a patent. He says, you know what, Nigeria provides you the rigor. It provides you the theory. And then when you go to a more exposed environment, you excel, because the theory is always the foundation of everything. So you have the rigor and the theory. And so when you go to a place that then does the application, you just take fire. So I think for me, that's where it starts from. So we've seen that, and I've seen over the years how people vested in an area of Nigeria opened it up. When we were doing banking, we used to go to the bank, take tally number. Yeah. So I remember, a lot of people might not remember, I remember tally number and queue up, and you don't want to go to the bank. And then when you are leaving, they will give you the money. You have to take your nylon bag. The day I forgot to take the nylon bag, I was, I'm in trouble. I went to Union Bank. I had to carry the money in nylon bag. When I entered the bus, I thought they were going to kidnap my little money that I put in. When I got on my bus, if you see the two legs, the way I ran to my house, I didn't even go to my house first. I didn't even go to my friend's house. They come and follow me. So I saw how the likes of Tayo, of GTB, the likes of Jim Ovia came and transformed them. And as they transformed, they became prosperous, because that's what it was.
Yes.
I also saw, when I worked in KPMG, we were trying to revive Nitel and MTEL for years. So I was in that place where even me, I was convinced the company could not be revived. As in, people said, I only knew people with not 9 There were big people where you carry phone. Phone was a status.
It was just 4,000 lines.
Jonathan was a status. My parents were civil servants, so we had phone growing up. But by the time I started working, I found out civil service life, to have phone, you have to be a rich person. I did not have phone. My first phone, my sister bought it for me. Do you understand? But MTN came in, Airtel came in, and they transformed the sector. As they transformed it, they made billionaires of people. I know people that are billionaires from selling phones. They have offices. That's even before Slot. Before Slot became a known name. I know people that made money from this recharge card. I know people that went from zero to hero under the telecom.
At the time, recharge card was even 1.5.
Was 1.5. When you
have to print
So what I'm just saying that I've been in 3, and I'm giving you 3 industries where people went from zero to hero. And as the industry opened up, millionaires and billionaires were made from that sector. Before then, it was only oil. If you're a rich person, your parents worked in oil company, or they were civil servants, or worked for government, you were comfortable. But as these industries opened up, they created billionaires. When consumer too started opening up, and when I mean consumers, when we go away from the likes of the Nestle's, the Cadbury, as they opened up, see people that are sending biscuit and the biscuit my children eat, I never knew any of those biscuits. Right? And they're being made here, and then people are opening up. I know.
And it's a huge one.
It's not the same. As people are opening up, Biggie, we didn't have Biggie, only knew Coke and Fanta. Sure, some of the drinks we even use, Zest and all this, they're not here now. So as industries open up, prosperity happens to people alongside. See housing. When we were growing up, was a man who wait years, build his house, or he worked in the government. Now people are doing real estate. I know people that are making money from building real estate. So what I just feel that if we have people take one sector, the billionaires there take a particular sector, invest in this Nigeria, it brings prosperity for many. That's really what it is. It brings prosperity for many. See what has happened in the creative space. The creative space used to be, which one was movies? Which we used to do all this. Now people have invested in the creative space.
Yes.
We have the likes of, people that have millions of followers, YouTubers, and recently someone was talking about the video of how much money they are making. I just look at, Emanuela, see how they've gone, Macaroni, Daddy Shaggy, and it has taken them all over the world. The creative space has opened up, and alongside as it opened up, it's creating millionaires and billionaires in the space. So for me, that's really what it is. Take a particular industry and create millionaires and billionaires along as you open up the space. So if we have, instead of taking your money to Swiss, take some of it, at least invest it, and say, you know what, let me go and help this sector or open up, give it patience capital, help the
almost like, because when I see what Bill Gates is doing, I mean, he set up his companies, made up a money, set up his foundation. I mean, people can talk about tax incentives by having a foundation, but fundamentally, that guy today is a force. Even when USAID pulled out of Africa, he doubled down on Africa. He was in Nigeria last month.
Yeah, I was there.
We're all there celebrating and hugging ourselves because, again, he's even created this particular fund to teach people about gender equity and equality. What does that really mean? But I don't know that a lot of African investors or even wealthy men understand that moral responsibility of supporting. But I want to bring this question away a little bit more personal now. Just even looking into, you've been married for maybe over 20 years, right? And in those years, you've managed to transition from corporate to entrepreneurship, having a supportive spouse, but keeping your marriage. In a world where marriages have a 60% possibility of failure, right? And you've been able to stay within the 40 successful percent. What is the secret that is making you stay there?
First of all, let me say marriage is hard. It is. It's like family. You know how your family members, you can't divorce them. Once you know you can't divorce them, you just end up accepting them. I think that mindset helps. But I think for me, fundamentally, is that you have to marry someone that is invested in your success. Is not threatened by your success. The person wants you to succeed, and the person is okay taking the backseat or not being in the limelight. And it has to be both ways, so we'll help each other succeed. It's interesting that when I was in, corporate, a lot more women were rising to the top. On the average, I'll be honest with you and say that at one time, when we sat in the manager's office, as we looked at all the women that were there, 80% of them were earning more than their husbands. Right? So you will see 80% of them are earning more than their husbands. But for it to be a comfortable environment, the person has to be okay with your success and even be invested in your success, and realize that at different times you might be the one earning more, or it might be the other person, because you can also turn.
Yes.
So the person is happy with your success. If you can't find that kind of person, it's going to be hard. So I know a lot of people that they are working in KPMG and their husbands were downstairs fuming. In 1 year, they were gone. They have some people, their husband will not allow. He must be in his shadow. He doesn't want your success. I know some people that their husbands are willing to take care of their children for a year for them to go to masters. And so you really need to start by marrying someone that wants your success. That'll be my advice. Someone is ready to invest in your success.
I think it's important because in a world where income inequality and women are getting more opportunities, a man has to sort of redefine his value.
Yes.
You're not less because your wife earns more.
I
think it's important to come to the table with partnership in mind. Like, okay, regardless of what you earn or what she earns, you guys are doing life together and being able to build from there. But I don't know that the fragile ego of a typical African man might survive that. But let's come to.
I don't think if he's a traditional man, it'll be hard.
But as an entrepreneur, this is an aside question, but it's coming to mind in terms of we've had over the last 10 years a push making a case for equality and equity. And of course, some people argue that the feminist movement have done a lot of good, but somehow have also done a lot of bad. Some people fear that what that may have opened up for us might be battle of the sexes, where people are having to look at each other through the scope of a rifle. Have you had to navigate this tension as a woman? What's your own perspective on the feminist movement and how to find a balance? Is there a space for it in the world? Is this something you think could be navigated better? What are your thoughts?
You know, the interesting thing is anything to one side is not right. So, everything should try to find a balance. That's the first thing. So, just to give a bit of background, I grew up in a family where 7 children and 6 of us are girls.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that we grew up with, we are more women in the house. But the difference is that my father was not a traditional man. So my father had schooled abroad. So maybe he had some more Western. So we were treated as equal. I have a brother, but when we were growing up, he wasn't any more special than any of us. So we were equals.
Mm.
It was as I started relating with other people that I realized that boys in their family, they say, your brother cannot do this. We look at my brother and like, what? He was like a normal person. In short, he was even less than a normal person. We girls were even more elevated than him, if I might say that. So that's how I grew up. So I grew up with powerful, first of all, being treated equally. Then my mother was also a powerful woman. So she also didn't allow anybody bring her down because she had girls. As in, like, my mom's shoulders was like this. You get? So having been around that kind of, it made it easier. And I'm the 5th. So that means that by the time I was growing up, I had a powerful mother. Mm. My first sister had, done well. She was a lawyer. My second sister did computer engineering. So they also broke stereotypes. So my sister used to talk about her being an engineer and how she used to dust the boys in her class. So for me, I didn't think that being a girl meant my brain would not carry engineering. Mm. So by the time I went to school, I was ready to show the guys in my class. So that meant my own thinking. I came into it growing up with that equality, So I didn't think that it was going to be my husband that would buy my first car for me. But having said that, I also saw the other side of allowing your femininity, meaning that I could also play helpless damsel when I want to. My car breaks down. My husband is a lawyer. Me, I'm an engineer. I don't know how to change tire. I will just call. Mr. Adewusi come and drive. Say I should enter his car. Then he will battle my car and I will drive home. Do you get? So what I'm just saying is there's a balance, and in the end everybody has to say what they want. So me, I do doubtless helps. I don't know how to call mechanic. I don't know how to do all those things. Mr. Adewusi, I never even change bulb in my house. Should they always laugh? My sisters always abusing me, and you're the engineer in the house. Sure, there's sometimes that there's a new TV. I don't even know how to operate it, and he has traveled. I'll not come. What do I do with? I'm the engineer in the house, but I won't even be bothered because he's taking that role. Yeah. So I've learned to balance it. I'm not trying to do the extreme side. So I balance my wanting to be a woman without necessarily doing the excess. That's how I want to do. If you want to do it and you're happy with it, so that's why I feel that there's no one side, but I will go more for balance. So I'm ready for a guy to help me carry my bag. Do you understand? I say, madam, can I help you? I will not say no. In short, I will look at you and like, why isn't this guy offering to help me carry my bag? Do you understand? Why is he helping me carry my bag? I want help you open the door. So my son told me, like, did you saw me? Did you see that woman? Go and help her carry her bag. So I'm teaching him that male because I feel for me it's a balance, and that's really where I want to do. But in things that are not, in those relationship things, I feel there should be equality. So I don't expect. I worked in the corporate, so we are not paid based on gender. So I was already earning equal salary. So when I said, you mean the people who separate? I didn't even know that what happened because I was where I worked. We work in banks. They don't pay men on women differently. Yeah. Now there are places where things start to change when you start having children. So when you start having children, I'm also an objective and realist. If you start having children, you take maternity leave 3 months, it's time for them to promote you. I feel it's okay to say that you are away from 3 months in the office. The guys in the office did more work. So your promotion might be delayed a bit 1 year because you've not done as much work as the other people that spend the whole 12 months, which is fair enough. So I think you should take that in your stride, right? The guys, if more men are on top, the truth is that people want their kind around them. So it's always good to have a woman that breaks it and tries to see why other women should be on the table. So I also understand that, because in the end, that's why when you go to an office, if you start being Yoruba, then all the other people are Yoruba. If you start being Hausa, because people just are comfortable with their kind around them. So for us is to make sure that you're not judged based on your gender, but what you bring to the table, and to create opportunities for people to be on the table. I realize that representation matters. Your children, when they see more black people doing things they want to do. Vanessa Williams and the Williams sisters made black girls consider doing tennis.
Yeah.
Before that, it was a white sport. So representation matters. We need people to break in there. People should not judge you based on your gender, but what you bring to the table. And it's okay to be feminine. So that's where I do the bad. Please carry my bag.
This is
help
wholesome.
me repack my car. I'm okay with those things.
I love your views. I think it's wholesome. But to bring this home, if your life was a music, what would be the soundtrack?
You know that now there's the latest music, so maybe I would do no turning
So no turning back.
Yeah. So there has been challenges on the way. There's some things you say, in with hindsight, I'll right to do it. But there's some other experiences that were all fun along the way. Sometimes I'm like, I should not have done a 5-year course. I should also have done 4-year course, so that I've gone into work market immediately, and I would have been had 3 years ahead. In the same time, I'm like, doing engineering was one that allows me to think a bit in a, so it's not so bad. I'm like, maybe I should have immediately when I left the Big Four, I should have just started into business. But then again, I look at it and say, working with an entrepreneur also allowed me to have a more balanced life. Maybe I should not have done this edtech. But so in the end,
not turning back is pretty much encapsulates all that.
It encapsulates that life is a tapestry. The black along it are part of the things that make it beautiful, rather than when it is monochrome. And I think people should embrace life. I'm also coming to learn that don't compare. Comparison steals your joy. So you say, this person is my friend, his business is already doing. No, because the truth is that everything is a cycle. So I'll leave people say, don't compare. We are all on different journeys. The fish is not the same as the monkey, is not the same as the panther. And just realize you're taking your own journey. The last thing I will say is, whatever you want to do, start.
Okay.
Don't overthink it. Which is why a lot of people never go into business, or a lot of people never take that jump. You always think it. But it's like a leap of faith. Life is actually a leap of faith. When you take the first step, you see the second step. You never see the second step without taking that first.
Titi, you've been such an amazing person to have this conversation with. I personally would love to listen to this. So much you've shared with us. But if there is a book that shaped your worldview, what would that book be?
I think the latest is The Prosperity Paradox. And it's because of where we are now and what the change I want to see in Nigeria. I'm realizing that book.
I have to go and reread that book.
Yeah, you need to. I'm recommending it to everybody, right?
Yes.
Especially those of us that are in the business where the fallow ground is hard. Do you understand? I think reading it encourages you as well.
Breaking into the bottom of the pyramid.
And that's what we need to do, really.
That's where the value, the greatest value.
That's where the riches also is. The other one, they're just skimming on the top. So I would encourage everybody to read the book, and I'm happy that the Nigerian co-authored it as well. So but read that book as a business. If there's one book you should read this year as an entrepreneur, it's with The Prosperity Paradox.
Guys, you get that? The Prosperity
Paradox. I think
Paradox.
if there's a second book that I would recommend to read, I think it's The One Thing. Sometimes focus is also important. When you start independent, you try to do plenty of things. I've also listened to the likes of Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. They all talk about, focus. Sometimes all those things you're chasing can be a distraction.
Can dilute you.
Yeah, so focus is also...
Do you have a spiritual practice?
I pray.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
The length of my prayer tells you an idea of the length of my problems. The more, when I have something that I know that is only the heavens that can shake, you see me, I'll be doing 2 hours. I'm like, what are you doing? Are you not going anywhere? I'm like, what time is it? I've done 2 hours. Because I would just be pouring out everything. And it really is a cure for worry. It's a cure for worry. So that's one of the things that I do. My spiritual process, I pray. I can't do it anywhere. I pray. I think another thing is if there's anything that I also do, I do read a lot of stories of entrepreneurs, especially faith-driven entrepreneurs, how they do it. I've joined quite a number of programs. Just there's a very good one, the faith-driven entrepreneur. That was very fantastic, especially from my own Christian belief, and I encourage a lot of people to do that. It talks to that balance of not allowing because I'm a workaholic, so it helps force the creation of the balance, prioritizing all the various facets that you are. So for instance, no matter what I do now, I won't work on Sundays. Before your holidays cannot be negotiated. That time off, for the family is there.
You're, as a startup, your revenue has to get to a point for you to respect your Sabbath.
No. That's what I thought. But it's the same. That's what you.
So it's just a decision and a choice you make. It's not a revenue gain.
The thing is the rest. The Sabbath is really about rest. So if you don't do it on a Sunday, you have to have another day that you do it. That rest, where you do something that refreshes you, that is not work related. So the rest could be go to hang out with your friends, go to have dinner with somebody. But you need a day of rest, and the next day feels just better.
So thank you so much. I think we've taken more than enough from you. This looks like a 2-3 parts podcast loaded in one, from entrepreneurship to solving one of Africa's intractable problem in education, redefining learning outcome for children, raising a new generation of African kids that can become more innovative, explore and expand the understanding of STEM in a way that we can have more engineers, more innovators,
more thinkers. Really, that's how to be engineers.
I love the slant of not just giving people what to think, but teaching them how to think.
That's really what we need.
That's a revolution that I'm hoping. So thank you again. And we would sometime want to have you back.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. Like I mentioned in our discussion, just listening to people helps. So what you're doing is also really beneficial. You heard me talk a number of times. I heard this there and was the light bulb moment. I encourage people to listen to people. That's why Lagos traffic doesn't hassle me enough now, because I'm listening to something.
Yes.
Before I used to be hassled by Lagos traffic. Now I realize that means I need. Is this the podcast I'm going to listen to? Is it, one message that I say I must come back to listen to? So traffic time, those useless time now I use for that. It's the same thing waiting for the flight, So this is a good one. I'm happy, and it helps people. We're not meant to do life alone. So listening to podcasts, other people that have gone ahead said, I think everyone should. So well done to you as well.
Thank you so much.
Well done to you as well. I hope that this goes far.
It will. Guys, like I said, she'll be back sometime again. But this has been a wrap.
Thank you for having me.